Hello there, I'm Ian Rogers from a company called ProSync, and we are streamlining construction for your projects to be faster, better, and for less. Today, I'm going to be talking about the secret code to a successful project initiation for BIM data. So hopefully you'll recognize some of the scenarios that I'm going through here. How late are they going to be? Where has all my budget gone? Why are there so many quality problems? What will it be like for our users? How do we get into this mess? Some startling statistics about projects across the world. Only 47.9% come in on budget, only 8.5% come in on time and budget, and only 5.5% come in on time, budget, and benefits. Overall, 98% of projects fail when measured against these sorts of criteria, which is a damning indictment on our industry. So how do we cure this? So in our opinion, the cure starts with a systems-based approach. So we've got to have the systems and processes in to control the whole process from initiation to operational outcome. We have to have smart procurement, which leads to productivity, time, and cost improvements. We need an early detailed brief, which is very important. I'm going to be covering some of that shortly. And we need detailed data requirements, which is the most important part, particularly for this forum that we're talking into today. And then that allows us to have quality assets built throughout the lifetime of the building. So we end up with the asset that we want with best value over its lifetime. And the lifetime, the whole life cycle, if you like, is the most important aspect to consider when we're talking about this. So just to summarize that, the cure comes in two parts: obtaining a very detailed brief from the client before the design team is appointed, and to developing a very detailed set or sets of data requirements. And it's that part I'm going to be concentrating more on whilst I cover off some of the other elements of what we're doing in our presentation here. So I'm going to be dealing with the first three elements of our process. But before we start that process, we have to begin with the end in mind. So we always have to look at what the client wants in terms of its operational building. We need to therefore think this through, and the critical phase of any project is the thinking phase. We need to do a lot of thinking, putting all the ideas down on paper. This thinking has to be done at the start. We can't do it halfway through or as we go along. It has to be done at the start. We start that thinking by knowing what we want to achieve at the end. And the culmination of all this thinking is that we'll be able to assemble what we really want and what is possible. Then we can evaluate the viability and set the project up in our own way. And then we never stop thinking from there on in. In our process, we've got 10 overall stages, but I'm just going to concentrate on the first three stages here. The project evaluation, in terms of the big why, the project vision, and the organization's information requirements. The project viability, the project initiation document, project brief, feasibility study, and the asset information requirements. And then the project setup, the BIM execution plan, which I'm sure we're all familiar with, the building hierarchy, the various plans that we need, and then the employer's information requirements. So you'll see through all these three stages, we've got a lot of emphasis on data and how it's organized, how it's captured, and what it's used for. So the project evaluation, just quickly, is looking at the big why. Critical to understand why this project is being done. And it's unbelievable to me that a lot of clients don't even understand this aspect of their project. And the project vision. What is the vision for the project? This drives the whole process from inception to realization, and it gives context to all stakeholders involved. So we've always got a reference point for how we're going to take this project forward. But in this stage, it is important that we look at the data. So we start off with the organization's information requirements, or OIR. Data is lifeblood of modern construction projects. It is the blueprint for the digital framework and information architecture. So it's essential that we get this right at the very beginning. It ensures that the project aligns not only with its immediate objectives, but also the broader spectrum of operational, maintenance, and facilities management aspects. i.e. asset management. This is a section that is never ever properly considered in most projects. And it is, in my opinion, the most critical, because if you don't know how to get the data out to manage your building, which is the bottom of the iceberg rather than the tip of the iceberg in the project's life, then we're wasting all this valuable data that we've got within our databases and the BIM information model, if you like. It's about future-proofing the project through data-driven decisions and how we categorize those information requirements. So at this very early stage, bear in mind this is all before the design team is even appointed, we're capturing all this data requirements and structuring it correctly. As we go through the next two stages, you'll see how this is built up. So then we move to project viability. And yes, we do look at the project viability before anything else starts. And to do this, we look at a project initiation document. And those of you who are familiar with Prince 2 will understand this phraseology. This is a complete compass that guides your project's direction. It is a comprehensive roadmap, meticulously crafted through collaboration input from stakeholders and specialists. And we can involve experts from the design team at this stage to get their input into this, but we're not appointing the design team at this stage. And our project initiation document, or PID, can contain up to 35 detailed sections, and it will be continuously evolving as the project progresses. From this, we can get a detailed project brief, and this document aligns the design team with the vision, and it serves as a guiding light throughout the whole design phase. So it is a very, very important document, and it is very, very data rich and very well thought out at this early stage, to the point where we can even start to put room data sheets together. And then we look at a feasibility study very early on with obviously a lot of assumptions, but this is looking at the real world reality as to whether this project actually is worth investing all the time and money in up front. And we look at it from both the economic, technical, and operational feasibility, so the client knows exactly what's going on. But at this stage, we really start to look at the asset information requirements. And this, as I say, is a very critical element of what we need to do. This defines what information needs to be collected, specifies the information needed to support the asset management and maintenance throughout the asset lifecycle. And as I'm sure you know, once the data is set up for everybody to use, then it is locked down and can't be changed later on. And often we see that the data is fine for design and possibly construction, but the project manager, the cost consultant, and more importantly, the facilities management cannot get that data out of that model because it's not been set up right. So this is why we need to look at the asset information and how it will be managed and accessed in the operational phase of the building, which may be several years away. But it's important we capture this and put this down into our model at this stage. We need to look at how it will support the decision-making during the design, construction, and operations. And it will start to feed the viability of these stages from an operational point of view. So the third element in is our project setup. This is more going to be focused on data and what we're used to doing, but it looks at a number of things. And obviously the BIM execution plan is the critical phase. So we look at the file naming conventions that are suitable for everybody, the project's approach to annotations, abbreviations, and symbols, so that we've got a consensus on the language that we're using, the technology infrastructure, including hardware and software, how we're going to set everything up, how we're going to have what we call an integrated project environment rather than a common data environment, because I don't think there can be a common data environment because there's too many different databases around, and how that data is transferred and managed between all the different databases so we have one in-sync set of data. And then looking at the various plans, including health and safety, quality, sustainability, risk register, and the whole life cycle plan. So we've got all of this information, documentation, and data ready before we start. So when we come to the project setup from a data perspective, the employer's information requirements, the EIRs, are very critical here also. So now we've got a third set of data that we're grafting, if you like. So this is a guide to the collection and delivery of the information, the technical details of the software platforms, definitions of levels of detail, how far are we going to go down, and in the UK that is critical so that we can comply with the Building Safety Act and the often stated golden thread of information. Management details of how the processes are to be dealt with, how we're going to adopt and connect everybody together, and all aspects of the project, including operations. Everything needs to be thought through from the employer's information requirements point of view. And then on the commercial aspects, details of the BIM model, the deliverables, the timing of data drops, and definitions of information purposes. So we've collected everything. So as you can see, through these 3 stages, we've crafted a huge amount of structure for the data to exist, so that every stakeholder has access to this data in the way that they want to, not just 1 or 2 elements of the team. So just a little bit about us. Our vision is to fundamentally change how we build and maintain our buildings for the benefit of all. So we've got a huge vision and a complete system which is quite radical in how we go through this. The 2 key people in this, and there's a team of us behind this, is myself, Ian Rogers. I've got considerable experience in the industry, so this isn't coming out of just a thought. This is coming out of real life experience over 40 to 45 years. And I'm passionate about changing our industry for the better. The industry currently is a very poor productivity, and we need to change it. And my cohort in this is Chris Mackenzie-Grieve, who's also got considerable experience in the business, in both projects and procurement. He's passionate about changing the industry as well, and he is very keen on putting into a place continuous improvement through lean and TOC. And he's also a trained barrister. So I'm not going to go through this, but this is our model in one integrated system, where we're looking at an integrated project delivery system, a knowledge hub, which is where we will drive continuous improvement from project to project, because often all the data is lost from one project to the next, whereas we will have an anonymized database, which we can really start to drive all the different aspects of the project and keep improving it. And then we have to have a project integration leader to bring all the elements of the project together. And then we've got our whole process, which starts from the 3 phases that we've already done and goes into the funding, then the normal design stages, construction and handover, and then on to operations and the life cycle. After each stage, we have a thorough gateway review to sign off with all stakeholders before we can move to the next stage. And I'm also saying that after the spatial design is done, we have a design freeze so that the design team can get on with the technical design in extreme detail without the fear of further changes coming down the line. So that's our system. It's very complex, very integrated. As a result, we reckon we can build faster, we can get the building faster, we can get to the ROI faster, we can get to the use faster. We can do it better quality, better for the people involved, better for the suppliers, the clients, and for the environment, and for less. We can reduce the capital cost by, we reckon, between 20 and 30%. We can, again, reduce the maintenance and whole life cost by about 20 to 30% by doing this process. Because although we're spending more time up front, we'll cut down considerably the construction period, because there will be very limited variations. And that will allow the client to set up properly, because we'll have the data there. So as soon as we've got practical completion, the building can be opened and operated. Summary and conclusion. I don't believe the construction industry is collaborative or productive enough at the moment. And through the first 3 stages that we've introduced before anybody else really gets involved in the project, we've looked at the project initiation, setting it up properly, the project viability, and then the whole project setup, including the data, which is critical in this day and age. And that, in effect, is the process system. So thank you. We've made our lives a breeze, and we've got a code 5413, which, if you want to learn more about that code, come and see me or message me, and I will discuss that further with you. So that's all for now. If you've got any questions, please put it in the box or ask me after the presentation, and I'll be happy to answer and discuss this further.